What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to episode 16 of Manny's Food Channel. It's your boy Manny, aka Mr. Cooking It Up. For this episode, I decided to do something that was completely out of the norm. I'm almost absolutely sure that none of you have ever thought of putting these ingredients in a recipe. Now, they might be out of the norm, but the two main ingredients are one of them being Sprite and the other one being banana ketchup. These two ingredients are very popular in Filipino cuisine and mostly in Filipino barbecue as well. And before you get all judgmental and thinking that this is going to taste really weird, I urge you all to try it out. It is, as always, freaking delicious. So, without further ado, it's time to get down to business. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hydrate these sticks here with just a touch of cold water for probably about half an hour or so, or at least minimum of half an hour. And the reason we're doing this is because we don't want the sticks to burn as we're cooking it. So we're just going to let this sit for about a minimum of half an hour, and then we'll move on to making the marinade. So to make this marinade is fairly straightforward. First, we're going to grate some garlic, a couple cloves of garlic. Next up, we're going to add some soy sauce. I'm going to add Calamansi juice, and if you don't have Calamansi juice, you can replace that with lemon juice. We're going to add salt and pepper. We're going to add in the banana ketchup. Next up, we're going to add in the main ingredient, which is the Sprite. So there's two reasons why we use Sprite in this recipe. You can use 7-Up as well, and one of the reasons is because it adds sweetness to the pork barbecue, and the other reason is the carbonated water helps to tenderize the meat a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to set this aside, but I'm going to save off half, and I'm going to split them in two, and we're going to use the other half as a glaze as we're barbecuing the pork, so that way we can keep it nice and moist and it's got a nice sticky texture on the outside. So I'm going to set this aside to rest, and I'm going to add in sugar to the glaze. You don't have to heat it up or anything. All you have to do is just mix in the sugar and make sure it's well incorporated, and set both the glaze and the marinade aside, and then we'll work on the pork next. So typically for this recipe, Filipinos like to use pork, but sometimes you can use beef as well if that's what you prefer. Here I have 2 pieces of pork loin, but I prefer to use pork belly as it has more fat. But this one is a little bit leaner this time, so I'm just going to use pork loin. So what we're going to do here is we're going to slice them into even slices. And remember that it's going to go on a skewer and it's meant to be bite-sized, so you don't want to make them too big. But you also want to evenly cut them as well, so that way they cook at the same time. So we're just going to cut them into nice bite sizes and set them aside. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in this pork into our marinade, and we're going to let it marinate for at least an hour. I prefer doing it for a day. That way it has better depth and intensity of flavor. So I'm just going to mix this around, and I'm going to leave it for about 1 hour before we go out and barbecue. And because this is meant to be more of a snack than it is a main meal, I'm just going to serve it with steamed rice and a little bit of pickled veg, so nothing complicated. Alright, so our pork has been marinating for about an hour. Now we can start skewering them up. I have about 5 or 6 skewers here. And I'm only going to skewer them up probably maybe 1/3 of the whole skewer on here. So we'll just grab them and we'll skewer them up. Don't squeeze out the marinade. You want it to stay inside the meat. So that way it's more intensified flavor in there. So today is actually really cold outside. It's supposed to be summer, but I guess summer's over. But it doesn't matter what temperature or what weather we're having. Every day is barbecue. So I don't actually have a grill for my barbecue, so I'm gonna remake something a little small here that fits into my barbecue, like a small little grill thing. So I have my marinade here, it's ready to go. We're gonna start basting it around halfway through the cooking process. And then we have our little barbecue skewers here. And I'm gonna put it on medium to low heat. I don't want to overcook it too much, and I want the glaze to slowly melt down and reduce as we're putting it on top of the meat. So that way it caramelizes the sugar and also has a bit of a sticky texture on the top as well. So now I've heated up the grill a little bit. I'm gonna start placing all the skewers on the grill. And then we're gonna close up the barbecue and let it cook for around 1 to 2 minutes on each side before we start flipping them. As it slowly cooks, you're going to start to see that caramelization coming from the sugar from the Sprite, as well as the sugar coming from the glaze. And you're going to see a nice char golden brown on the outside. That's when we know that it's started to be ready. So now the first side has been cooking for around 2 or 3 minutes. I'm just going to quickly flip them over and then let the other side cook. There we have it, folks. Filipino BBQ pork with a side of white rice and pickled papaya. And all this equating to a plate full of deliciousness. Time for the taste test. Alright, time for the taste test. As always, I'm super excited about eating. Just 3 times a day for the rest of your life. One thing to at least look forward to. So, cheers. Freaking delicious as always. The great thing about this dish is there's not a lot of prep to do. And it's a great little snack that you can have as well if you don't want to use it as a main dish. But definitely have a try. Let me know how it is. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to seeing you all next time.